Hey, you guys, so 8th graders only are taking these notes. So these are notes over Allegory. We're going to get them started. Actually, you're going to do them all. Make sure that you have your Tootsie Roll Pop that I gave you in class before you take these notes, okay? You need that. Do not eat it. Hopefully you did not eat it. Please don't have eaten it, okay? Because you need those for your notes today. So we are going to come in tomorrow. We are going to discuss what you guys have written down in your notes, especially about that Tootsie Roll Pop, okay? So once you have your ISN's table of contents filled out and those 2 pages, come on back and we will get started. Okay, welcome back. Okay, so you guys should have your pages labeled as an allegory. And then you need this and this, okay? Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I wanna cut this apart. So here's how you're gonna set this up. Okay, so we are going to be taking notes on an allegory. An allegory is a kind of story. We're going to talk about a couple of different other kinds of stories also, just because I want you to be able to tell the difference between an allegory and the other ones. The reason why we are studying allegory is because Lord of the Flies is an allegory. Okay, it is written as an allegory. So when William Golding wrote it, he didn't write it as just a single piece of fiction. He wrote it as an allegory. Okay, so an allegory is a story with at least 2 layers. These are the 2 layers. There's a literal layer, which is exactly as we read it, okay? It's right there on the surface. This is going to be an adventure story about boys stranded on an island, okay, and what happens when they are. But then there's also an abstract, okay? William Golding is trying to tell us something about humanity and society through this. And so there's a deeper meaning than just the literal, okay? So that is what an allegory is. Some other ones that are confused with allegories is a fable. Okay, so the next one is a fable. Okay, so a fable has a moral lesson. It usually uses animals to represent different vices and virtues. So the one that always comes to mind quickly for me is the tortoise and the hare, where that hare thought it was so fast, so it had no problem racing the tortoise, so it decides to take a nap. The tortoise is slow and steady. We always say slow and steady wins the race. So it talks about the virtues of thinking too much of yourself and just doing what you're supposed to do, even if it's at your own pace, okay? So this is not an allegory. This is not a fable, okay? So, but sometimes these get confused because there's if you wanted to discuss it, a fable is a form of an allegory because it's got the literal and the abstract. It's just a story about a tortoise and a hare, but it teaches us something, right, at the same time. The last one is a parable. Okay, so this one is set in the real world with human characters, and it teaches a moral or a lesson. So that the difference between a parable and a fable is this one almost always has animals. This one's going to be using humans, okay? They both teach morals, okay? So basically, here's what we're going to do. We are going to start, do you see how this is a symbolic arc, is what this is called. You start with the concrete traits, then you look at the abstract, and then from there you can create the symbolism, okay? Which is basically what all of these do. That symbolism is all of these layers going together, okay? So what you guys are going to do is, if you look at here, okay, I want you to examine the outside of the Tootsie Roll Pop, okay? So look, you can unwrap it, but you can also use the wrapper, okay? Examine the outside of the Tootsie Roll Pop, but use what you know about the inside. Okay, so listen. Concrete details. I'm actually going to write it over here because I want you to actually write stuff in here. Concrete details are what you can see. Okay, so those are what you can see. So over here, I want you to look at the outside of your Tootsie Roll Pop, and I want you to write down everything you notice. Okay, so use as many details as you can about the outside of that Tootsie Roll Pop. Okay. The abstract is inferences, what you aren't sure about. So think about it as, what do you know? So like if you look over here in our little directions, use what you know about the inside and about the commercials. Okay, that's going to go in the inferencing part. Okay, that's going to go right here. And I've actually also included underneath these notes the commercials for you guys to watch, so you guys can get on and see the old Tootsie Roll Pop commercial. Okay, and so you guys can do all of your inferences about what you know about the inside and anything else that you guys can come up with. That's not what you can see, but just what you know, okay? Then I want you guys to dig deep, okay? You're gonna have to dig deep. I want you to think about what you can see and about all of these inferences, and I want you to come up with something that you could say that this Tootsie Roll Pop could symbolize, okay? You're almost looking at it metaphorically. Okay, so two things that don't seem like they go together at all, but you are making the connection based on the concrete traits that you see and the abstract traits. Okay, and you're coming up with a symbol. Okay, I want to see what you guys can come up with. So tomorrow we are going to be discussing what you guys wrote in here about your Tootsie Roll Pop. Okay, if you have this done, there's a chance you might get a second Tootsie Roll Pop, but this has got to be good. Don't just throw whatever. I want you guys to really think deep in there about those Tootsie Roll Pops, okay? So come in tomorrow. There is no little questionnaire. There is no quiz after this because we're going to be talking about all of this in class. We are then going to be moving on and talking as we read Lord of the Flies. We are going to be talking about how it is set up as an allegory and how certain characters are going to represent abstract traits, okay? There's going to be a lot of symbolism in this novel. There's a lot of stuff under the surface that we will be discussing and investigating as we read. So I will see you guys in class tomorrow.